Hi, I'm Casey Luaters, and this is Could Be Pretty Cool.
Anyone who posts online is making a quiet trade. You get reach, community, and in some cases, a whole business. You also give away small pieces of information about where you are and what your days look like. Most of us don't think much about that trade until something makes us think about it. Today, I'm joined by Tiffany Wisconsin, who also goes by Wisconsin Tiff. She's an adult content creator based in Wisconsin. She built her business on OnlyFans and TikTok, and she's been recognized by her industry for the work. How she got started is a story about moving quickly with a very clear plan. And what she's changed about her daily life since is something a lot of creators will understand. One note before we start: parts of this conversation touch on stalking and personal safety. Tiffany talks about her own experiences directly. There is a lot in here worth hearing, no matter what kind of content you make. Let's get into it. Today's episode is exploring a topic that anyone who is creating and posting things online should probably consider at some point, just given the world that we are living in. So I am very excited to have Tiffany Wisconsin on the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So could you tell folks a little bit more about you and what it is that you do?
I am based in Wisconsin. So I'm Wisconsin Tiff, or I go by Tiffany Wisconsin. And I do adult content. I do OnlyFans. I do some mainstream here and there. And I am on some other platforms as well. But yeah, adult content.
So how did you decide to build a business around your content, and what the early days look like? I know a lot of people think, oh, I can just start an OnlyFans and then I'll just be successful and rich. But like, how did you decide, okay, I'm going to try this? And what was like the entry point looking like?
So, what makes my experience so different and why it became so successful is because I was put in a position where I had to think of something to get out of a situation to leave my ex-husband. And I had never been on my own. I never had my own money. And I had to make this work because there's no one saving me. It's just me. And so what I did was I was like, I have to find a way to get these subscribers because I don't really know how to market on TikTok to get subscribers because I was so afraid of losing my account. So I made it super safe for work. And I was looking more so for them to like my personality. So that way people be like, oh, she's funny. And then they see a link and they're like, oh, I need to subscribe. And so my secret to getting more subscribers was going on live streams on TikTok. And I figured out a system that if I have a video that gets pushed out, that's when you do the live stream and they see your personality. And so they're more likely to subscribe. And so I did that. I want to say I did live streams for the first 2 years straight. Every day. Every day I did live streams and I would do them all day long. And then I would go on OnlyFans and do live streams almost every single night. So I did live streaming until 2023 because it was just so much work. And I found another way to get subscribers without having to go live all the time on TikTok because my videos started going a lot more viral and I was becoming more busy and I couldn't keep up with the amount of subscribers that I was getting because I would need to make content so that way I can make them happy. And it's like, I can't be on a live stream all day. I have to do this. So I found different things to work for me and not everything worked. And I didn't let things that didn't work make me feel like I wasn't ever gonna never make it. I just believed in myself. And sometimes I would just fake it until I make it. I would just act like I was a millionaire, even though I wasn't. And so I would pretend like I was just some rich girl visualizing all this stuff. And I didn't tell anybody that, but in my mind, I'm like, I'm making 1 million a year. And I wasn't, but in my mind, I was visualizing that. And just kind of where I started.
So tell me about the work ethic that has to go behind live streaming on a consistent basis. Folks who listen to the show, they know that I'm definitely a behind the mic, behind the scenes person. And so having to start being on camera more, being on video more, I'm like, oh God. So what for someone who doesn't realize how much work goes into live streaming, interacting with audiences, coming up with things to talk about, how did you maintain that sort of schedule? You said for 2 years.
The thing that helped me was finding a way to entertain myself when fans are not interacting. So I would just pretend like I'm having a conversation with them and I would just start talking about my day. And I would just chat away about, yeah, I just got back from the coffee shop and it was so good and I ordered this and that. And then somebody would respond to something like just something random. So I'd be like, yeah, I know it's so great and stuff. And then if nobody was interacting, I would start dancing and doing weird stuff and just being like, want to see my collection of stuff? I felt like I was talking to an imaginary friend. And that's how I treated it. And that's how my live streams would go so well on TikTok. Now, for OnlyFans, it's a different strategy. And so, if there's a strategy, and I would highly recommend going on YouTube to learn how to do live streaming on those kind of sites because there's so much information and there's so many questions you want to ask. What do you do if nobody's interacting? How long do you stay on? You need to have a strategy because you're wasting time and then you're going to get upset with yourself if you're not seeing the what you want because there are going to be days where they're not good, and instead of spending all day, get off and find something else or stay on. And if your goal is to have more of a, if your goals are different based off of that day, but just don't beat yourself up just because you're having a bad day. I would just highly recommend asking all of the questions. What do you do if they're not interacting? How do you get them to tip? What do you do to like, how do you start from the bottom to work your way up? There's a strategy. It's almost like a pyramid and a domino effect. You're not just going from here to there. Everything is built up. And I feel so many people just want the end result when they're not seeing everything's just built up. And if you go from here to the end result so quickly and you're not learning the in between, you're not learning that. So you could be making mistakes later on, which I always want to learn from those mistakes. I personally feel like you should experience everything because you're going to learn so much from those and you're only going to grow more from that.
That's really good advice, actually, really for any creator who's streaming. I would love to know, after 2 years of live streaming every year, when did you see that, okay, this is like my business? Like, I am a business person. I am turning this content creation into my work. When did you first see, oh, this is a possibility?
Right away, because I was working at the school and the schools just opened up from COVID. So I was working at the school and I told myself, I'm like, I am not going to be able to do this long at the school and do this because at the time though, I was so vulnerable and I've never done anything like this. I'm glad I did what I did because there's going to be a time where you're like, you got to think of how far can you go before it's not okay. I personally think that there's two ways out of this. So if you're struggling with your current job, don't just quit and just go for it because you need to at least, I know some people get so excited and ahead of themselves. For me, I was very lucky. It was the first 3 weeks and I was having tons of men send me tips and I was telling them my situation that I had to leave my ex-husband. And after the third week, I had put my 2-week notice in at the school and I was able to leave my ex-husband, I think it was 2 months after, because I knew at the rate that I was going, it was going to be consistent. Because I think the first month I made 6,500, which is pretty good for having no experience, no help. And that was mostly from live streaming and just getting subscribers and men sending tips. But they knew my situation was. But I knew that because that was my monthly income, I had never had that much access to money. And I knew this is enough for me to get out of the situation and get my own apartment. And I was living way below my means. And my ex-husband, he is very well off, does very well. But I was a stay-at-home mom who had no money in my name. There was no way I was going to be able to get any access to any money, or him saying he was going to, but I knew he wasn't. So I had to think fast. I had to think of, I need to make as much as I can to get out of this situation, because I'm not standing around and I'm going to be yelled at every day. And feel any stay-at-home mom who's been in a similar situation knows what I'm talking about. I guess when you're in a situation where you have to leave and it's like, this is it, that's what makes the difference. I know when I had done these little side jobs, when I had done, there was like essential oils and stuff, I wasn't at that point in my life where I had something happen where I had to think fast. And this was a moment where I was put in a situation where I kind of went in survival mode.
No, thank you so much for sharing the story. And I think it's really interesting just to hear how the outlet for you then became this, it's a section of the creator economy, but a space where you're now able to support yourself. You're now able to get out of a bad situation. And I think that's actually very commendable. So, as I also understand, in 2025, you actually won an award. And so this was very shortly after it sounds like you started. Could you talk to us a little bit about that and how that sort of, I don't know, confirmed for you? Oh, I'm on to something.
I had been nominated in the past for things, but this was my first award. And I don't think 2024 I was nominated for anything. I don't remember what happened. They had a nomination, but then they removed that category. And I was so upset because I had put so much work into that category to potentially get voted. But last year, when I had won that, I just felt so seen. I was crying when I was walking up to the stage. And normally I have stage fright, but I was able to keep my composure.
Wait a second. Can I ask you about that? You have stage fright?
Yeah, because it's different when it's a phone and you're talking to everybody, but it's like a crowd. They're all silent. And versus a phone, you can say something stupid and you can't see the reaction. It's more so because you're seeing a reaction from their faces. And I've struggled with stage fright my entire life. I even remember as a child, we had to go up on stage to share a book that we read. And I was so petrified that I picked a book that had a ghost and wore a sheet over me to be a ghost. And I was still having stage fright.
So I would love to move on and talk about perhaps have there been any experiences along the way that have changed how you approach your business or your privacy? Of course, with this type of work of putting yourself out to millions of fans everywhere, people get to know you in a way that it is a type of relationship, one could say. But how have you had to start to think about your own safety as a person, as a creator in this space?
I used to really enjoy hiking, but I have not been able to go hiking in a year because I am so afraid that somebody is going to do something to me on a hike. I've seen too many stories. And back in the day, I was so vulnerable and I was going on hikes in state parks by myself. And I'm sure I could still do it, but I've had some situations happen where I'm just so thankful that nothing happened. And so one of the things that I find myself is that I don't do as much as I used to stay inside, or I do things where it's very hard for someone to do something to me. So I don't do hiking. I don't do camping unless there's a man with me, a friend who I know, because I haven't gone camping at all this year, which I really wanted to. I'm so afraid to even go. I cannot go camping unless I were to have a man with me. Even if I have my family with me, my kids, I cannot take them anywhere where it could put us in danger because the mailman was one of my stalkers for the longest time. And mailmen have access to buildings. And all it would take is for them to walk inside your condo or apartment or the unit because they don't have access to opening the door, but they have access to the building, so they could get into your place. So that whole situation is what made me not trust men who are supposed to be professional. You would think that they wouldn't do anything because this mailman was coming to my door, not going to the mailroom, coming to my door to bring me my Amazon packages and my mail. And I was so confused. Am I supposed to be signing something? And then I had found out that he was a big fan of mine. And I was just like, this is so inappropriate because not only are you probably breaking some sort of you work for the government. You can't just be coming to people's doors because you're a fan and abusing your power of your job because that's not okay. So ever since that situation, I just am so scared of keeping my doors unlocked. You should not have to be scared about keeping your doors unlocked. And I don't know if he would do anything, but it's the fact that he has that access. So I don't trust Amazon people. I don't trust UPS. I don't trust FedEx. I do not trust maintenance men. I don't trust carpet cleaners. I don't trust anybody who has access to coming into a building, pretty much.
It's definitely a violation of safety and of privacy that like completely understandable how that can kind of cause somebody to be a little bit more guarded and on edge. What would you hope that people would understand more about people who are content creators, people who are making work to entertain people, but who still deserve their privacy and their safety? What would you hope people would understand about the separation between you when you are working and when you are not working?
I wish they would understand there's a time and place for everything. And doing those things where you're not supposed to be doing, like showing up to people's doors, is not winning any points. It scares people. It's obviously it's not authentic because you're messaging me and you're mentioning about my kids, which really ticks me off about this mailman because he was mentioning the gender and everything. And I was so irritated and I felt like it was. So my whole thing is I wish people would just go to the conventions if they really want to see me because a lot of men are like, oh, I wish I could go to convention. I can't go to the convention, but they can somehow stalk me in the public. But you can't go to a convention where we can actually talk and interact and it can be natural because it's not natural for you to stalk somebody. I'm going to know because there's no way you're at this place because I'm sorry, but the type of places I go to, there's no way this fan goes there. It's just, he doesn't seem like the type of person that would be at this because he had found me at places that I was going to because he gets the mail, so he knows where I'm shopping. I'm like, it's not natural. And you're acting like I don't know. I notice little things. I'm hyper vigilant about things, especially because my mom was murdered and these men don't understand. I don't think some of them know that happened to me, but I've been in interviews about it. I've been hyper vigilant about men my entire life, but it wasn't until I started getting much bigger on the internet, I started seeing the awful side of men do not care. And so I would hope that they would understand there's a time and place for everything and just respect my privacy because I like doing things on my own. I would say I'm a lone wolf. I have like one friend in the area and he's in the industry, but I just wish they would respect my privacy. And they say that's what you asked for joining the industry. And it's not what I asked for. That's an excuse for you to go against my boundaries. So you're saying that's okay? That's because you get access to me that way? That's not okay. It's weird. It's not normal. If you were to tell that to your coworkers and your friends, do you think they're going to look at you and think that's normal? Oh, I've been watching this girl all day. I'm like a huge fan. No, you wouldn't say that to your family. You wouldn't say that to your mom because it's not okay. That I had to get off my chest.
again, completely valid. And you would think and hope that more people understood that. I guess to sort of wrap us up, when you have experiences like this, but they're still coupled with experiences like winning awards and growing your business, what motivates you to continue to build despite the hesitations, despite the having to be more vigilant just because of the area in which that you work? What is making you be like, you know what, I'm going to take these new precautions or I'll be more aware, but this isn't going to stop me from achieving my goals?
I can't let those things stop me because it just would bring me behind, and I need to focus on the goals. I lived a life where I had a lot of not so good things happen to me, and I don't ever want to end up homeless. Homeless is one of my biggest fears. I've been homeless once when I was a child, and it was after my mom died. And so I've experienced not having a lot of food. There were times where we didn't have a lot of food, and then there were times we had a lot of food. I don't want to ever end up with inconsistency. I would rather do whatever I have to do in order to live a life where I never have to ever experience that again, because it is not fun. And that's what keeps me motivated. And plus, I'm a mom, so I have to keep motivated because I have no one there. I'm all by myself. So I have to keep myself accountable.
Tiffany, I think that this interview has been really powerful and really important for creators of all genre, whether you're in adult content, whether or not, because people seem to, in some cases, think that there is access granted that is not granted, regardless of the space that you're creating in. And so I think just giving folks something to think about as some of us are out in public. Hey, I'm at such and such restaurant right now. This is where I am. Just being more aware of the potential access of folks, I think is just an important conversation to have. And thank you so much for coming on the program and talking about it. If folks want to find out more about you or your work, what is the best way for them to do that?
They can Google me, Wisconsin Tiff, OnlyFans creator, or Tiffany Wisconsin as well. And everything will come up about me. And they can find my OnlyFans, or I have other stuff on my website that they can find from Googling me.
Fantastic. Well, yes, thank you again for coming on to Could Be Pretty Cool. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
A few things stuck with me from this conversation. First, you can't skip steps. Tiffany described growth as a pyramid and a domino effect, and made the point that when you skip to the end result, you skip the part where you learn how any of it works. The in-between steps are the education. 2, go live with a plan. Before you turn the camera on, know what you'll do when nobody is interacting, how long you're staying on, and what a good day actually looks like. Tiffany spent 2 years live streaming daily and treated it like a system, not just vibes. Third, get the proof before you go. Tiffany didn't walk away from her job based on feelings and optimism. She waited until the income was consistent enough to count on it, then gave notice. Her advice to anyone eyeing the exit was to make sure the math makes sense first. And finally, access is not permission. Tiffany said that there's a time and place for everything, and that showing up outside of those places isn't fandom. Practically, it's worth taking a look at what your posts reveal about where you are and who already has routine access to where you live. If you want to go deeper on this one, we'll have more on our Substack, including some practical steps creators can take on privacy without disappearing from the internet entirely. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Farewell, and may all of your creative endeavors flourish. Could Be Pretty Cool News is a Could Be Pretty Cool original production. Created, hosted, and executive produced by Casey Lou Waiters.
Senior producer is Liz Moore, and supervising sound editor is Trinity Jackson. Our original theme music was composed by Camille Stennis and cover art design by AJ Johnson. To learn more about Could Be Pretty Cool and discover whatever else we're up to, visit us at couldbeprettycool.substack.com. Thank you for listening.